Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparison of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. And I am Carrie Linklater, your chairperson today. I forgot this. I am joined by Fred McIntyre to my left, Mr. Richard Whitbread to my far left, and our city assessor today is Mr. Jason Brown, and our admin secretary is Katie Sutherland. And if you could swear everybody in.
Affirm? Okay. Please state your name.
Jason Brown.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You can affirm or swear.
Swear.
Okay. State your name.
Les Sitkowski.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Thank you. State your name.
Sid Story.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Brown,
Good afternoon.
and Mr. Story, and Mr.
Good
Satowski.
afternoon.
First item on the docket is 530 Century Street, and whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the roll number is 070021432200. Located at 530 Century, which is at the juncture of King Edward and Century. Owned by Artis Winnipeg Industrial 2009 Limited. We're defending a 2020 assessment of $13,800,000 today. The parcel consists of 3 buildings, 33 premises, ranging from 1 to 2 stories, built in 1978-79. Wall heights range from 11 to 22 feet, and we have leasable area at 129,800. On page 2 of my evidence, you'll see 2 sales. First one in 2002 for $7,080,000. Subsequent one 10 years ago in 2009 at $10,444,000. On page 3 of my evidence contains the actual subject property leases. These range in area from 23,500 square feet down to 646 square feet. Rents range from $6.25 to $14. The average actual rent is $8.92. I have my rent comparables on the following page. All the rent comparables are net of management. These range in areas from 2,000 square feet to 6,700 square feet. Wall heights ranging from 12 to 21 feet. Effective year built ranging from 58 to 08. And you can see the range in rents from $7.95 all the way up to $11. All located in the area. You'll see a few 801 Centuries in there, all from the same building. Following pages are market rents for the subject property. So these range, once again, from 646 all the way up to 13,459 square feet, and the rents range from 757 up to 920. We're using a total potential rent of $1,047,480, which works out to an average of $8.07 per square foot. On the following page, page 6, is my income stream. So we've taken that $1,047,480 from the previous page. That's our potential rent. We've applied a 4% vacancy. Expenses at 2%. And shortfall at $3.75 per square foot. Gives us our net operating income of $965,999. We've capitalized that at 7%, which gives us our rounded estimate of value of $13,800,000. Page 8 shows the capitalization rates used by the city and the outside sources. You'll see industrial in the second set of properties. The city's using cap rates ranging from 5.5% all the way up to 9.8% for industrial properties, with the 20th percentile being at 6.34 and the 80th percentile being at 7.80. You can see Collier's splits theirs into A and B, ranging from 6.5 to 7.25. CBRE uses industrial A and B. They're ranging from 6 to 7.25. And Cushman Wakefield also using A and B, ranging from 6.5 to 7.75. We have some sample cap rates on page 9. These are sales that took place within a reference period. Simply not being relied on just for just to show some of the sales in the market during that time. So we have 4 sales ranging from 4.97 all the way up to 8%. You'll see the bottom one, 1100 Waverly, sold in September 17. This is very comparable to the subject. You'll see 1100 Waverly is 138,000 square feet. The subject is 131,500 square feet. Waverly was built in 1974. The subject was built in 1978. So those two are very comparable, except for location, of course. Page 10, we have non-recoverable expenses. And I'm only going to read this once, but I will just read it for this property only. So for the 2020 general assessment, the department has analyzed income and expense information reported by property owners to derive model-generated estimates of net operating incomes. In deriving these NOIs, we've allowed non-recoverable expenses in 2 categories, which is the 2% and the shortfall. Following table contains a sample of properties in which actual I&E data was submitted to the department for the reference period. Using this data, we've discovered that the 2% non-recoverable expense allowed included is consistent with market data. So we've all seen this before. I won't go too far into it, but these are just a sample of some properties where we've analyzed, and the 2% is falls well within the range of what's being shown in the marketplace. On page 12, this property is located at the juncture of Century and King Edward. 3 buildings, as we can see in the aerial view at the bottom. So they actually have three distinct addresses. The first property, which is on page 13, is 117 King Edward. They're showing the class as showroom, warehouse, manufacturing. The following page, on page 14, shows 530 Century. This is the second building. And then the third building is, has an address of 550 Century. On page 16, this is a newspaper article taken from the Winnipeg Free Press. It was published in 2009, which is when Artis bought this property. I've highlighted a few passages that I'd like to focus on. So in the space of 6 years, Artis Real Estate Investment has gone from having no properties in Winnipeg to being one of the city's largest industrial landlords. On the following page, they state that they're happy to continue investing in Winnipeg. It's a market that fits well within their strategy. They state that they like investing in Western Canada because it's been the country's strongest regional performer in recent years, and they say that's likely to continue. On page 18, they cite Manitoba's steady, reliable economy, stable workforce and growing population, high unemployment levels. So they acquired nearly 700,000 square feet with the acquisition of ING's industrial portfolio. So at that point, they owned 38 properties in Winnipeg, 30 of them were industrial. Dollar value is pegged at around $300 million. They also acquired ADA Holdings industrial portfolio around the same time. That included 16 buildings and 950,000 square feet, making them one of the city's largest industrial landlords. Two paragraphs down from the picture of the forts on page 19, they say with 96 properties, 7 million square feet of commercial space and a portfolio valued at $1.4 billion. They said they're a major player in the Western Canadian commercial real estate market, and they boast very attentive management, very forward-thinking, strong ownership. And then on page 20, there's just some basic statistics about the Artis portfolio. Page 21 shows a 2017 listing for office space at the subject property. They're highlighting 292 parking stalls, high traffic flow in the area, fully developed office space, and easy access to downtown. Obviously close to the airport as well, subject. Page 22, this comes from the same rental ad. So this was November 1st, 2017. They were seeking $13.50 per square foot net. And then there's some pictures on the following pages. Page 25 shows another rental ad. This one was from 2017 as well. This one they were seeking $7, and this is on page 26. $7.25 per square foot net for the office warehouse at 117 King Edward, and $11 net for 530 Century for second floor office. Once again, they're showing one dock, showroom, suitable for showroom, 18-foot ceilings, etc. Just a sample layout of one of the units on page 27. So warehouse at the back, office at the front. Page 28, same thing. This is the second floor office space, so there's conference room, and it's been divided up into smaller offices. Page 29 and going forward, these are the income and expenses we've received from the owners upon a request. So this is the 2017 income and expense. These are very detailed financials. We can see at the top they have the rental income. So there's the net rental income, and these are divided into the three properties as well. So I'll quickly go over maybe the first one or two, just to highlight some of the things I've noticed. So they have the net rental income at the top. There's recovery income at $207,000 for operating common, property tax management, etc. Then going down, we can see the property operating expenses at $203,000, which corresponds to the 207 we saw in the recovery income at the top. So those are all recovered via the recoveries for that column. And then we'll see at the bottom paragraph, I guess, or where it's split up, owner's expenses. You'll see that's listed at $691. So that was the non-recoverable for this property. So well within the 2% that we're allowing. You'll see the net operating income on page 30, $495,000, so just below $500,000, and that's just for the one property. On page 32, that's the second property. Net operating income is at $557,000. And page 35, this is the third and final building. Net operating income at $186,000. On page 35, I've added those three up. We have a total net operating income as per the statements of $1,239,000. The 2020 assessment's based on an NOI of $966,000. So I feel we've been, if anything, a bit low in projecting the net operating income of this property. We have the rental rolls on the following pages, just showing the rates per square foot that I showed on page 2 of my evidence. And based on that, we ask that the assessment be confirmed at $13,800,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Questions, gentlemen?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. So, Mr. Brown, this particular building, you would agree, is fairly old. It's about 40 years old.
Built the same year I was born, so yes.
Really old. I was born a little bit later than that, or earlier than that, sorry, so a bit older than you. But in terms of building, not human beings, though.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So you would agree that for a building that it's quite aged?
Yep, it's 40 years old.
40 years old. So, question is, for a 40-year-old building, you're using a cap rate of 7%. Do you not, I mean, that is one of the factors that goes into determining what cap rate, the age of the building, that is, goes into determining what cap rate should be used.
That's correct. However, I did point to the sale on page 9 of 1100 Waverly, which was built in 1974, and that sold for just under 5%.
Okay, but that's a much different location, of course.
Of course.
It's in a part of the city that's growing very quickly.
Yeah, I'd say both locations have advantages, but they are different locations for sure.
And in your opinion, what location would be better?
It depends. If you want to be closer to the airport, this location would be better.
But which location is growing faster?
The south end generally has higher rents.
Okay. Now, your presentation is based on model-driven
Correct.
rents. Okay. So, can I ask you, what is the reason why you included information about artists in this brief?
Just a little background information about the sale in 2009.
But it doesn't affect the value. I mean, the information that you provide here is information that tells us, you know, that this particular company wants to do business in Winnipeg, but it doesn't. Oh, well, that too. But it doesn't address a particular value of buildings, though.
No, I just wanted to show that these are investment grade properties and that they are owned by a competent
Well, hold on.
company.
Which properties are investment grade properties?
Well,
The subject is
Correct.
being 40 years old is, you're
I
saying
would
that
classify it as investment.
you would. Okay. Now, with respect to your page 8, when you show the capitalization rates,
Yep.
the column referring to, or sorry, the rows referring to industrial properties, The cap rate ranges from 5.5 to 9.8%, is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, with properties that are closer to the 5.5%, would they usually be newer properties, would have larger land-to-building ratios, higher ceilings?
Single tenant, that's
Single,
correct.
yeah, and properties closer to the 9.8 range, they would be probably older properties, lower land-to-building ratios, lower ceilings.
Well, I don't see too many 9.8s, those are
I don't know, well, I understand that, but
older
that's.
properties, they would be in bad shape. 60% of our cap rates range from 6.34 to 7.8.
It's 7.8, yeah. And the cap rate that you use with respect to this property is it 7%, I believe, right?
Correct.
7%. So you think therefore that property that's sold, a property with the land to building ratio that it has, which is 3.05, property that has ceiling heights from anywhere from 11 to 22 feet, that would fall no higher than 7% for a cap rate?
I believe that is correct. If you see the 20th percentile is at 6.34, I feel that this would fall between this 20th and 80th percentile easily. I don't feel that there is a lot of risk in this building, which is what a cap rate determines.
You don't feel that there's risk, even though there's very little parking or space, like the land to building ratio is very, very low?
They're boasting 292 parking spaces for 33, so that's roughly about 10 per unit.
Okay. So in short, you don't put much weight to some of the evidence, particularly with respect to the company's information and their history here in Winnipeg.
No, that was just provided for some background information.
And just background, that's
Correct.
Now, you provide also some, on page 22, for example, you provide some information with respect to asking rents. Those are just asking rents, right?
Of course.
That
Yep, no, I'm not relying on those either.
you're not relying on this, okay. So what are you relying most on?
Well, this is model driven.
Model
so,
driven,
yeah.
so, okay. So you're relying on, on page, you're relying, with respect to the rent per square foot, you're relying on page 5, is that correct?
Correct, these are the model generated
Model-
rents per square foot.
Okay. And then with respect to capitalization rate, you're relying upon the studies that are shown on page 8.
No, we're relying on the model generated cap rate, which was derived by looking at all the sales from industrial properties within the reference period.
Well, but you only show only 4 sales of industrial properties on page 8.
Correct, and then those are just a snapshot of what sales have transpired. But the outside sources are strictly just for supporting evidence.
Okay, I see. Okay. Do you have questions with respect to this?
I might just, are you finished?
Yes, for now I'm finished.
Yes, sorry, I just have one quick question. Mr. Brown, you referenced on the non-recoverable situation. We'll go to page 19 of your brief. And can you point out in here where the leasing conditions and professional fees are?
On page 19.
No, it's not.
No.
Page 19 of your brief?
It's,
Got 19 here. Yes, numbered.
no, hold on, this is,
Oh, I got the wrong.
you got the wrong one.
Sorry. I got 801. I got my centuries mixed up. We are getting along.
I believe you're probably referring to page 29 or 30.
Yeah, sorry about that. No,
worries.
I'm actually referring to page 30. And could you explain what your interpretation of these financial statements were? And could you just explain to the board what, on page 30, what the 2 lines are, being 7705 and 7706? Could you explain what that is, please?
So if we just quickly turn to page 29. Under property operating expenses, line 6080, you'll see management fees at 19,556. And now we turn to page 30.
That's property management, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
On page
And it's
30.
totally recoverable, no question.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
On page 30, you'll see that same deduction, 19,656. So they're recovering 100% of the management fee.
Okay, I'm asking you to explain to the board what 7705 and 7706, what are those, what do they represent?
7706?
Yeah, the two.
Or the fair value loss
Yeah,
on
fair
property?
value loss on property.
That is a depreciation calculation.
How does that work?
That, I don't know. Looks like they're calculating some type of depreciation on the property. So it's a negative 444,000 and then a positive 230.
Have you had any accounting experience?
No.
So are you familiar with GAAP is? Generally accepted accounting principles?
No.
Okay, are you aware that a public company cannot follow GAAP in North America? They have to follow international reporting standards? You aware of that?
No.
Okay. Are you aware that leasing commissions are charged directly into that account, and then the properties are appraised and this adjustment is made? Are you familiar with any of that?
No, I'm not. And once again, we're not relying on the INEs. I'm relying on the model.
You're not relying on a newspaper article 10 years hence. See, there's 9 years ago that. And I really don't know the significance of who bought what, when, and why, but that's all right. Okay, so you don't understand the accounting, and you can't answer to the board where these adjustments came from.
Correct.
And you can't identify to the board where real estate commissions and other non-recoverables are in these financial statements?
No, but they are recovering the management fee, which I pointed out.
And they always do, it's property management. And you understand that the misnomer in this whole thing that goes back to 1994 is the word fees. Because management are non-recoverable expenses. And every property, would you agree that every property in its lifespan, even if it's on triple net leases, will have some costs that cannot be transferred to the tenant? Do you agree with that?
Correct, and we feel we've addressed that with
And
the
those
2%
are called
and the shortfall.
non-recoverable costs.
Correct, which we've calculated at 2%.
And they're stabilized because 1 year you can have $1 million in leasing commissions and the next year you have none.
Would be
So in their wisdom,
amortized.
in their wisdom, in 1990, whatever it was, 4, the city said we're going to stabilize it at 5%. Do you agree with that?
It goes way back.
And this
before.
year, the city decided that they wouldn't recognize it, and it's completely contrary to appraisal theory. Are you aware of that? It's captured in appraisal theory. You have to report all the costs you have of ownership. That's all I'll say about that. Thank you.
So, Mr. Brown, in short, you're really not putting much weight on the information that you provide on pages 19, 20, 21.
I can't.
I mean, I guess there's some lack of understanding. And these numbers really are misleading, I would think. Is that,
Which numbers are you referring
well,
to?
let's say, for example, on page 9, sorry, the income statement, we're talking about the income statements.
The income statement.
It's all marked.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
so,
I'm defending a model generated
Yeah, so-
rents and
yeah, so I guess, so again, if it's model generated, can you please explain to us why you're including all of this information that really there's no weight on, that you're not putting any weight on this information? I.e. income statements, i.e. Company information that's 10 years old or more. Rent information, asking, or rent information that shows what the company's asking back in many years ago, but that's not the actual rent that they're receiving for that particular space.
I believe I've answered all these
Okay.
questions already.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay,
Thank you.
sorry, I just go on and on something.
That's my job.
Okay,
finished?
I think those are our questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
Did you visit the property?
I have not inspected the property. I do drive by it fairly regularly. I'm fairly, yeah, I mean, we've all driven by this property a million times, but.
So you aren't able to comment directly on the condition of the building?
No, I mean, this is managed by artists. They keep their properties in good shape. You can see by the pictures, page 23, there's some interior photos. It's pretty standard office space, but it looks to be in good condition.
If I were to judge the finishes and whatnot, they look fairly new. They don't look like 40-year-old finishes. I see corian in the bathroom, I see tile in the bathroom.
And there's a lot of permits on this property. I think they do invest in this property and keep it in good shape.
On page 29, 31, and 33, I see about $191,000 of R&M expenses, rough number, maybe $200,000 annually, that year at least. So, to my way of thinking, for this number of square feet, that's a fairly significant investment.
That'd be correct.
And that's not capital, that's R&M.
Correct. So that would just be year-to-year maintenance.
May I just interrupt for a second?
No, actually,
Okay.
sorry, it's
Sorry.
the panel's turn, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, I'll come to you when I get to your brief, I bet. I'm struggling with your income statement. Lack of explanation on the fair value gain on properties and the fair value loss on properties. I think what I'll do is I'll leave that and I'll ask the applicants to
Yeah, I'm
explain
not
that.
an accountant. These are fairly detailed.
Yeah.
But once again, I'm just defending the model. These are here just to support it. You can see the rents are well within what we're using and reported NOIs are.
Okay, no further questions,
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, and I mean, this confirms that they complied with the request for information.
Correct.
So that's why it's there.
Correct. Yeah.
Is there any vacancy in this building?
I mean, they did have some leasing ads in 2017. So probably just turnover from leases ending. The rent rolls are contained on page 36, and I quickly looked through them. I didn't see any vacancy. I believe they do a snapshot. So yeah, the first property, there's the summary on page 37, about halfway down, total occupied area 42,486, vacant space 0.
Oh, right there.
So the next one would be on page 40, right near the bottom. They're showing 1 unit vacant. It doesn't say when or for how long, 1,517,000 square feet. I guess that's unit 222. And that's shown once again on page 41. Total area 38,100 near the top, vacancy 1,517. And then on the final page, page 44, once again 0 vacant space. So I don't think it's a big problem on this property.
Thank you, that's all my questions.
Thank you.
Can you just tell me, Mr. Brown, when the last time this property was inspected?
I can. It was inspected in May of 2017 by a coworker. And we're just inspecting it for a permit.
Do you have any details on the inspection?
And we had lots of notes on this property, I believe, because there's so many units, it probably gets inspected semi-regularly. There's nothing inspected and vacated, the bats. There's not a lot of detail in the notes, but it has been inspected, it was inspected in 16 and 17.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stokowski, did you want to ask another question?
Yes,
to the
thank you so
assessor?
much, thank you. So there was a question with respect to the amount of money invested into this particular building. could it be explained by the fact that this is an old building and that, because it's an old building, money has to be poured into the building to maintain it?
Anytime you're renting a commercial unit,
And-
you'll have to
and-
invest into it to keep it fresh.
Can I just, sorry, I don't like to tag team, but I just have another question. You're aware that this is a flex warehouse?
Yeah,
And what's the difference between a suburban office and a flex warehouse?
well, a flex warehouse would have a loading door, some industrial space at the back, higher ceilings for racking and whatnot.
Well, let's talk for a minute. The oldest tenant I'm aware of in this building is the Baths, but they're offices. They don't have any of those things. So would it be an office use? This is a bit of a hybrid, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, Artis is showing it on their own website as industrial on pages 13. Asset class industrial, page
Yeah,
14,
they don't
asset
go
class
down between.
industrial.
But there are distribution warehouses or storage warehouses. I'll go the other way, starting with the cheapest first. Storage warehousing, distribution warehousing, flex warehousing, correct?
Generally, yes.
And if you were to put these in a hierarchy, the distribution, the storage warehouses are generally in the $5 to $6 range. Flex warehouse approach $10 a square foot, I would think. And then suburban offices, you'll find that on some of the properties we're talking about today, they're more office uses, but in warehouse buildings. So you're aware that in this particular building, a lot of the space is just office space?
Correct, I mean, they state the class is showroom slash manufacturing slash warehouse, and that's
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Artis themselves.
But
So-
it's a flex warehouse. And you're also aware that what's happening in the city right now with flex warehouses, particularly in the south end, particularly Terracon, they're building them a little bit differently. They're more like suburban offices. Would you agree with that?
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah. And those newer flex warehouses on Keniston, for example, are commanding about $10 a square foot in market rent. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, I mean, some of the property or some of the tenants in here are paying north of 10 too, so.
Yeah. Do you understand that this building is now competing with Terracon? They weren't 5 years ago because Terracon didn't exist 5 years ago in all of its locations there. They do now. So, but this building, this type of older flex warehouse has to compete with, that's change, that's progress with the newer construction.
We're seeing pretty low vacancy in industrial properties, so, you know.
Okay? Those are just questions. I just want clarification of the type of building you're talking about.
Okay, if you'd like to proceed with the presentation?
Thank you so much. So I'd like to refer everybody to the brief that we presented. But before I do that, I just wanted to mention that our basic argument is with respect to the 5% non-recoverable expenses. I don't think that we need to spend a lot of time on this. I'm sure you've heard this argument many times. I just wanted to ask the panel members whether you want us to distribute the decisions that were made by different panels with respect to the 5%. So you're aware of that? Okay, so you don't, so we'll save a little bit of paper. Okay. And also we have a document here that explains non-recoverable expenses. Would you also,
I think you've probably seen
you've seen, I think you've seen
Is
this
the
document.
document you're
Yes,
referring
yeah.
to? Right, so
Yeah.
tell me
So
you
you're,
don't have this.
I don't need to distribute this
No.
document.
No.
Okay. So, I'd like to now begin with page 3 of the submission. However, I would like to mention that upon further review, we feel that we will be accepting the assessor's the market rent of $8.07 per square foot. And if you like, I have a new workup here. It might save you some time. It's showing that rate, the rental rate of $8.07, and also what we're going to be reducing. the cap rate to 7.5% from 8.5%. So I have that work up here, and it'll show you what our new value is based on the $8.07 rental rate, the 5% non-recoverable expenses, and capitalization rate of 7.5.
Okay, so you have a new page 3.
I do have a new page 3, yes.
Okay. Katie will distribute that. Thank you, Katie.
Pay 2%.
Okay. So to show, just to explain to the board, so that I'll take responsibility, not less. Our data bank on industrials has a series of properties in the, built in the 80s and 90s. And they have 5.5, or $5.15 overall market rent. And they have a cap rate, ranges anywhere from 8 plus. And what happens is, because age is one of the main criteria in our development cap rate, our system picked up these older distribution warehouses, and the rates were wrong, and picked them up because of the age. So Les, unfortunately, was called in, and he mentioned that right away, that he thought it was inappropriate, and I agree with him.
So based on that submission, most recent submission, we're using the rate of, as I said, of $8.07. So we accept the assessor's rent of $8.07 per square foot. We accept the other parameters, the vacancy shortfall, the structural 2%, but we're also adding the 5% for the non-recoverable expenses. And based on the age of the building, we're asking for a cap rate of 7.5%. So that's an increase from the assessor's rate of 7%. Now, that's, as I said, that's based on the age of the building, and the building is 40 years old. Slightly more than that. There is land to building ratio is 3.05. And access and egress to this, to these 3 buildings is not the best. There's obviously room for vehicle parking, but that's about it. So based on the parameters that you see on that document, we're asking for a reduction to $6,792,000. So I would like to know.
Where's that
Sorry,
figure?
are you reading off
Sorry,
your
I'm
old
reading,
page 3?
oh gosh, I apologize, I'm reading off the wrong page. It's $12,210,000. I apologize. I only wish it could, it's expensive. So, again, we're asking for a reduction to $12,210,000. Now, I should point out, before I continue, that this particular property was in appeal last year, and the assessment was reduced last time around from $14,337,000 to $13,786,000. And so I'd like to go to page. Sorry. So I'd like to go to our cap rate study. So page 21. Oh, sorry, page 20. Yeah. So page 24, I apologize, page 24. Cap rate studies here, we're looking at industrial, the rate rates for multi-tenant buildings range from 6.5 to 7%. But as you can see, we like to go to we want to go to 7.5 because of the age of the building, because of the land to building ratio, and because of access and egress to this particular property. Also, if we take a look at page 23 of our brief, and these are cap rate survey reports for second quarter 2018, and the industrial section, we're looking at rates anywhere from up to 7.75%, and we feel that 7.5 for the subject property falls in line with those rates. And I believe that is, other than the pictures, other than what the evidence that I have submitted, that I believe that is it for us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So you cited the 2018 Board of Revision decision, and what was that at again?
It was reduced from 14,337,000 to 13,786,000.
And that was based on a 6.5 cap, is that correct?
At that time, yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. On page 24 of your brief, you have the Colliers cap rates. Is that Colliers? Yeah. And they're showing industrial from 6.5 to 7, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then back to page 23, you cited the Cushman-Wakefield cap rate study. The high was 7.75, but the range, so you're saying this is a low-end industrial B property?
The age is significant.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the ceiling heights are here, 11 to 22 feet. The land to building ratio is 3.05.
And then on page 21, you have your cap rate study. Was there any particular property you were relying on for this?
No, we're not relying on any particular property. This actually is a cap rate study that is not applicable, or not very applicable to this particular property.
Okay.
This is cap rate study for distribution and storage facilities.
So those don't apply to this?
No.
Okay. Those are all my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
No questions, thank you.
Questions?
Reference date, April 1st, 2018, correct?
Correct.
Both these cap rate on page 23 and 24 are post-reference second quarter.
Well, beginning of April 1.
That's first quarter.
Sorry.
Pardon me?
I said that's first quarter.
So this is from May 1st to June 30th.
Could be, yeah.
Okay.
So it's
So it's
post-reference.
post-reference.
That was all my questions.
Thank you.
This is, if I can just, for information, it's because it's Q2, and it's Q2 starts past April 1st, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Q2 is April 1. Nothing. January, February, March.
So that you've gone beyond,
First quarter, April is beginning of the second
but
quarter.
some of this is
Some of it,
post-reference.
Could be, yeah.
but it's still second quarter begins in April.
I mean, through the many hearings I've done in the last couple of months, some of the submissions have been Q1.
I think we do sometimes Q1 as well. We usually bring them in just to show that. That's not mine. Whose is this?
with us?
Mine's here.
Karen, I think no problem.
Mr. Stotowski, I just have one question. Did you have a chance to inspect this property?
Yes, not the interior, I've inspected the exterior, I went around to pictures, so some of the photos that are in this brief are photos that I
Okay. But you were not in the interior?
I was not, no.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you.
Do either of you have a wish for a submission on this property?
I'm fine as well.
Okay. Then we will move on to 801 Century Road.
Can we just hold off for a minute, because I
Of
think
course, I think
Mr.
it's
Story
just coming.
wanted to begin. So, go to the second one, 801. So, we'd like to begin with that. Will PPT just provide the information?
Yeah, well, let's put this one issue. This is a difficulty in the attorney market.
Mr. Brown, whenever you're ready.
Thank you,
To
ma'am.
start with 801, thank you.
So the roll number is 0700243600. Subject property is located at 801 Century Street, which is on the corner of Wellington and Century, between Century and St. James. Defending a 2020 assessment value of $8,957,000 today. So the property consists of one building, with 9 premises, which is 1 story. This was built in 2008, 20-foot wall height, leasable area at 64,323. On page 2 of my evidence, once again, we'll see 2 sales of the subject property. First one occurring in 2002. It actually contained a different building at that time. It was a 37,500 square foot warehouse. That warehouse was demolished in 2008, which is when the subject property was built. Upon completion of building the subject property, it then changed hands again in November of 2009 for $5,700,000. I have some rental comparisons on page 3. These range from 10,000 square feet down to 22,000 square feet, down to 4,600 square feet. Wall heights range from 11 to 28, and the effective years built range from 1963 up to 2000. We can see also a range of rents from just under $9 at $8.95 all the way up to $10.50. On page 4 is my income estimate of value. So the average rent that we're using for the subject is $9.03, based on 64,323 square feet. We've applied a 4% vacancy, expenses at 2%, and a shortfall at $3.75 per square foot. Yields a net operating income of $537,399. We capitalize that at 6%, which yields the final estimate of value at $8,957,000 rounded. I've already been through the capitalization rates and the non-recoverables, so I will skip those and go right to page 10. Subject property is located on Century Street. This is right next to the, on the corner of Wellington and St. James and Century, right beside the,
Sorry, excuse me, gentlemen. Sorry, it's just a bit distracting.
Sorry,
It's hard to hear Mr. Brown, thank you.
right beside the old Greenwood Inn, which is now the Best Western, which we can see on the following page. The Best Western's on the left-hand side. Subject property located in the purple box with the marker on it. Have some aerial shots on page 11. Once again, this is a 2008 building, so fairly new. Have the artist's webpage on page 13 showing warehouse, showroom, distribution facility as their class. Have some interior shots on page 14. So there is, I believe that's a Hilti location at the top. And then there's a children's play area on the bottom of page 14. So leasing ad on page 15. This is post-reference, which is why I've blanked out the rents on the right-hand side in the white box. But they do boast about their location close to the airport, direct access to major transportation routes, etc. They're showing 20-foot clear ceiling height on those little circles on the right-hand side in the middle. The layout on page 15 of one of the units. There's some more interior shots on page 16, so lots of room for racking, the 20-foot ceilings, good industrial space, overhead doors, etc. The layout of the entire building is shown on page 17. So there's one big unit on the left, a couple medium-sized units in the middle, and then the smaller units on the right-hand side. This is the 2008 permit when they built the property on page 18, showing a total project value of $5,200,000. So they built the subject and then turned around and sold it in November of 2009 for 5.7. And then we have the income and expense statements. Once again, it's artists, so they're very similar to the previous property. And then followed by the rent roll, which starts on page 20 and ends on page 22. And I'll just point out that there was 0 vacancy in the 2017, and that's located on page 22. Based on this information, we ask that the assessment be confirmed at $8,957,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Questions,
Yes,
gentlemen?
just a couple of quick questions. You're familiar with the building,
I am.
and you're aware that MPI leased 30,000 square feet, almost half of the building, for storage, record storage only?
I'm aware that MPI was leasing. I wasn't aware of their use.
Okay. But it's not, there's no staff in it necessarily. Okay. And you're aware Kid City is next door to MPI?
Correct.
Okay. And in the pictures you've got in your brief, just to walk through them very quickly. Hilti is on page 14, you say that's a Hilti store. And their zoning doesn't allow them in theory to retail, are you aware of that?
It's zoned M2, industrial district.
Okay. And page 14 on the bottom, that's the structures for the kiddies' playland, correct?
Correct.
And that's just moved in, that's not terribly permanent, that's not a permanent build-up,
That's correct.
moved in, can be moved out. They're just moving out one on Lorimer right now. And I guess this is the issue that, and why I'm here to speak today quickly. The 30,000, there's a sign on the building right now, 30,000 square feet is for lease. You're aware of that or no?
What date was
It's
that?
current, so it's
post-reference.
but it's current, but you're aware that it's for lease or not?
I wasn't. I didn't look past the reference date.
And are you aware of the issue with the loading dock and the cross docking requirements at the back?
I'm not. They're advertising overhead doors,
Yes, they have 14 overhead doors and one
angled one.
dock, yes,
Yeah.
it's a dock. And you've got any, I think I'm just handing this out. Okay, that's fine, those are all my questions. I just have to speak to this.
Thank you.
I'll
Rick,
speak to
Rick?
this before I do.
No, I'm good, thank you.
No questions.
And I have no questions. If you'd like to proceed with your presentation?
Thank you. So, we referred to the brief that was presented to the board.
I'll do this first,
Oh,
and then I'll move on my
Okay.
doctor's appointment.
Okay.
Can I ask, pass that out? This is information, it's actually in the assessor's brief as well, it's the same copy. Just wanted the board to be aware of this, because one of the challenges is how do you determine the market rent for this property? And there are huge challenges because of the configuration, actually. So I'll go really quick. So this is the back of the building, this is where the access and there's 14 loading overhead doors. And then if you look at the back on the right side, that's a dock to actually load. The problem is that if a semi is docking there, you can't go back and forth. If you flip to page 2, this is the current, this is the Manitoba public insurance space that's being offered for lease. The red squiggles, that's on page 2, the red squiggles are walls that have to come out, and these are costs that they would have to incur to accommodate one tenant, and they have one tenant in mind, but it's an incompatible use to be next to a children's playland. So I'll let you determine what that is. So in any case, but if you look, at what I wanted to bring to your attention is this back end with the red. That's how the cross docking might be required if you're coming in. It hasn't been a problem up until now. As a matter of fact, the MPI, when they took the space, which is when the building was being built, required that they put in this dock. And it wasn't a problem to them, but a semi blocks one of the overhead doors, and it also doesn't allow for passage behind the building. So there's a bit of a challenge with that. And the other thing is, as the stars aligned, it worked out, because MPI came in and leased the space before the building was fully built, and they were taking 30,000 square feet of it, and didn't have a lot of, they did request 10 and 10, 10 electrified, 10 non-electrified parking stalls, but it wasn't intended that a lot of people would be working at the facility, so it wasn't a big priority to them. So if you go to page 3, you'll see what happens is these are basically 4,200 square foot units. Each unit gets 2 parking stalls per unit. Kid City has 2 units, they get 4 parking stalls, but they can't operate with 4 parking stalls. As luck would have it, MPI don't have the same demand for parking, so Kid City get to use this, but not under their lease. They get to use it only because Hydro doesn't need it. Kid City, as you'll see on the MPI sites, everything down in the north end of the mall is covered with parking when the kids have events on there. Or school buses when the schools bring the kids for events. That's quite common too. As a matter of fact, Mr. Brown mentioned it even, or mentioned across the street is a Greenwood Inn. They get spillover parking in the Greenwood Inn. It's from time to time they're that busy with the Kid City. But it can only operate because this neighbor doesn't need the parking. And the parking is going to be a problem for the next tenancy. And I bring this all up because we're trying to determine what's a reasonable amount that they could expect. And my suggestion is that they use a rate of 804, is it 807? 807, because this is also a flex warehouse. It also is on the same north-south, south-north corridor, which is King Edward one way and Century the other, as 520, and 520 is at $8.07. I'm suggesting we use $8.07 for the subject, only because of these challenges that are facing the developer. The one tenant who they've talked to is actually a tenant in 520 Century, and they were contemplating coming over to the space, but their build-outs and everything were astronomical. So the problem you have is with Flex Warehouse, there's not enough base rent. If the base rents are $10 or less, it's very difficult to do extensive build-outs. This building is gonna have to be redemised, and it's going to cost at least $500,000, depending on what happens with rooftop units, whether they have to add them, change them, move them, whatever. So we're using $8 a square foot. They're competing with, I mentioned it earlier, these flex warehouses, plus the ones that we handle on the other side, in the south end of the city in Fort Dare Industrial Park, and ones we handle in the north end as well, are all competing now with the new model, and that's what A&S and Terracon are doing, which are more like suburban offices. And we talk about 20, and they boast in their website that they have 20-foot ceilings. 20-foot ceilings aren't considered to be very high nowadays. 24 is getting more common. We were doing some work for a company that needs 32-foot ceiling heights. So we're suggesting $8.07, but I wanted you to just be aware that we're suggesting that because of the challenges facing this property. They've had the benefit for 10 years. I was involved 10 years ago when they poured the floor firstly for MPI and then for Kid City. And what happened, Chance, that the people who were 10,000 square feet were next to the guys who were 30, and the guys in 30 didn't need parking. They had no pressure on parking. That may not be the case on a go-forward basis. And there have been, and to their credit, Artis is selective, there have been some leases, there's some offers to lease and negotiation on these properties. One is a printing company. They expressed concerns about the access and egress and loading and unloading. They also expressed concern, required certain build-outs that were just cost prohibitive. It's about $125 a square foot to build office space in flex warehouses. Very, very expensive. So the 807, I think, is a reasonable compromise, a reasonable amount for the rent. Again, our other, I'll let Mr. Skosi mention it. But, so that's all I'm going to speak to is I'm suggesting an $8 cap. We also are going to suggest you a 7% cap rate, and a 7% cap rate is what is, I have the pleasure of representing Terracon, and on Terracon we had a 7% cap rate on 1301, which is a newer property than this. But that's what they're all competing with one another. So with that, I'll say thank you. Turn it over to the associate.
Mr. Story, then I'm just gonna ask, your page 3 of your brief is entirely changing again?
I was gonna address that.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Unless it's a brief change.
But not the briefs I'm wearing.
I hope you are. Okay. Is there any questions on that last little bit?
We'll let Mr.
Okay,
Sikowski.
you're familiar with it.
Okay, so,
Speak first.
If I could just talk to Sid
Yeah.
quickly, you're leaving now?
Yeah. I have
Okay,
it.
so 2130 Notre Dame, it's gonna be a supplementary assessment on it. I sent you an email today.
Oh, did you? I didn't get it.
Yeah, so there was some demolition and some reconfiguration.
What do you want? What would you like to do?
Adjournment or confirmation, so.
I'm gonna let you decide.
Okay, thanks.
so that's 21, that's
Would Sid provide it?
Before he goes.
Sure.
Sure.
Let him go.
Did you need to leave right away?
Well, I do, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't understand that you were leaving, so we will ask questions.
Oh, yes, oh,
before
I'm
you
sorry,
leave.
yeah, I got something that's pressing.
Questions on the rebuttal, or the handout?
Yes, on that.
So most of that information was post-reference in regards to the vacancy.
Yes, the vacancy has not happened yet. It doesn't happen until January 1st of 20, next year.
Thank you.
It's a couple of months from now.
That was wrong.
But they've formally notified them
Right.
almost a year ago that they were leaving. And oh, by the way, did we hand that out? They signed with this here. It's again, post-reference, but
I believe you.
That's fine.
Or
Post
you sign.
reference.
So my question
It's
is
your,
for our
to Mr. Whitbread,
purposes,
yes.
Yeah,
irrelevant for today's hearing.
okay.
I'm asking if that's a question. Is it irrelevant for today's hearing? Because
Oh,
it's
I'm sorry, they
cross-referenced?
post-reference on the vacancy?
Yeah,
No, just we're trying to determine what flex warehouses, older flex warehouses might rent for. And we're looking at the challenges associated with it. This one has the challenges of being older than the new contemporary stuff that has water fountains and 24-foot ceiling and glass and mezzanine offices and everything else. But in addition to that, it's got site-specific, and I know when you talked, maybe jokingly, maybe seriously, about having some experience driving a semi-trailer at one time, you mentioned, I think.
not joking.
And this is a problem at that site, it was, has always been, and it's because that, with a 53-foot trailer, is that a standard semi? 53
That's
foot?
the box, yeah.
Yeah, you can't get by. And it was because that tenant wanted it, and they didn't cut them, it didn't matter if they cut themselves off, but they can't cut off, so it makes it hard to lease. So it's just the challenges.
We'll have lots of questions at the next assessment for you.
Yes.
Maybe.
So you're fine?
Thank you.
Just wait, Mr. McIntyre?
My only question was when the MPI lease expired, and I think you've answered it.
January 1, yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you. It's in the brief.
And I have no questions, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for your patience, Mr. Chairman. I took it out because it was really. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Thanks. If
No,
you would
next,
like,
okay.
if you would like to proceed.
Sure. So in this particular instance too, there is a change to what we had submitted, and it's the changes with respect to page 3. Mr. Story referred to a rate that we're changing.
Two different
to
rates
Mhm.
$8.07 a square
and
foot.
an $8 rate.
So we're
And 7,
he should have said $8. I think he did at one time said $8.07. And that's what we're gonna be using. But the other change, and this is an error on our part, we used originally a cap rate of 8.5%. I apologize, I was working on this and I forgot to change that to be more appropriate with respect to the age of the building. So we're gonna be using a cap rate of 7%. And if you like, I have the new workup done to reflect
Yes.
those changes.
thank you, Katie.
Thanks.
Keep getting two. Thanks, Kenny.
So, as you can see now, we wanted to, we're using the $8.07, which is the rent, the market rent that was used on the previous property on Century, and we feel that that is more comparable, or more appropriate to use. We're also including the 5% for the non-recoverable, and we're not gonna make any arguments with respect to that. And then, of course, we reduced the cap rate from 8.5 to 7%, which is more appropriate for this age of building. Now, as you can see, we still believe that particular cap rate should be higher than the 6% that the assessor is proposing, and there are several reasons, some of which was what Mr. Story was talking about. The land to building ratio in this particular instance is 2.6. So, and again, there are difficulties with accessing the site from the back when it comes to delivering goods. So, that is these are the reasons why we're saying that the cap rate should be 7%, and I'm not sure whether I should go through the brief any further. I mean, the cap rate information is the same as the one that was used in the first brief. And, so, as I said, I don't think that it's necessary to bore you with any more information with respect to this particular property. It's the same, much of the information is the same as we used in the previous brief. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, questions?
Yes, thank you. So this building is 10 years old?
2008, yes.
11 years old. 10 years old at the reference station. And the previous building was 40 years old. You used a 7.5 on that, and then a 7 on this one?
Well, again, we're using that rate because of some of the other factors that come into play. You know what, I forgot to mention that there was a reduction last time around too, from $7,983,000 to $7,663,000.
And what cap rate did they use on that decision?
6.25.
Thank you.
Would you give us those numbers again, please?
Yes, from $7,983,000 to $7,663,000. If you like, I have the decision here, Pritha, if you.
No, that's fine, thank you.
Just one last question. On page 15 of your evidence, at the bottom, they're showing the actual rents at $950 and $975. Would that be correct?
Page 15?
Yeah.
Okay, nice, okay, all right.
That would be correct?
Now, I see
Rate per square foot, charge rate square foot,
the 975, I see the 975.
9.5 and 9.75. And those would be the actuals?
Yes.
Correct. Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Whitford?
I'm fine, no questions, thanks.
No questions.
Just one quick housekeeping question, Mr. Stosky. I'm assuming on this revised sheet you've handed out to us, you're going to round this up to 6.5?
Yes.
Okay, and do either of you wish for a summation?
No, thank you.
We're just going to take a 5-minute break. Okay, I'm going to call this hearing back to order. And we are moving on to 1166 Sanford Street. Whenever you were ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the roll number is 130015233100. Property is located at 1166 Sanford Street. That's on the west side of Sanford between Wellington and Sargent. Defending a 2020 roll of $1,166,000. Today, this is a warehouse building, 3 buildings actually, 1 premise, 1 story. Actual years built range from 1972 to 1996. So this was actually built in 3 parts, which I'll address when I get to my pictures. Wall heights range from 11 to 26 feet, and the leasable area is 12,961 square feet. I have some rent comparables on page 3. These range from 9,400 square feet up to 13,500 square feet. Wall heights range from 12 to 26 feet. Years built from 1957 to 2005. And the net rents range from $775 to $895. On page 4 of my evidence, So we're using $6.28. This was actually reviewed before the roll closed, and it was actually reduced from $7.41, which was the market, or the model value. This was reduced based on the comps that whoever reviewed it looked at to $6.28. 4% vacancy, 2% expenses, shortfall at $3.75 per square foot, capitalized at 6.4%, yields the value of $1,166,000. The original value in the roll before the review was $1,381,000, so it's already been reduced by about $200,000. We turn right to page 10 of my evidence. So this is located on Sanford between Wellington and Sargent. Below the map, you can see a picture of the subject property. So the this part here was built in 1996.
Sorry, can I
Yeah.
s-
So this wing,
Which,
that's on the right-hand side. The roof looks a little newer.
okay, so the one, the part of the building that's closer to the street,
Correct.
that was built in 1996.
Yeah, on the south side.
Okay.
The middle portion, you can see a line in the ceiling here. The middle portion was 1972, and the left-hand portion was 1982. So these two portions have 26-foot ceilings, and the office on the right, the 1996, is 11-foot ceilings. You can see it once again on page 11. You can see the newer section at the top left-hand side with the lower ceiling heights that contains the offices, and on the right-hand side is the older portion with the higher ceiling heights. Once again, you can see the difference on page, at the bottom of page 11. There's a plan view on page 12. And then a couple interior shots on page 13. This is owner occupied, so there is no rent. Looking at page 14 now, which is why we're relying on the comps for this property. And based on that, we ask that the assessment be confirmed at $1,166,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Satowski, did you have questions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairperson. Mr. Brown, did you have a chance to inspect this property?
If not,
Okay, so you're not aware of the challenges that this property is experiencing?
no.
Do you have a chance to drive by?
I did not.
So, one of your pictures, well, if you turn to page 10, which is a view from the air, take a look at the street. That, for a commercial property, does that street seem to be a bit narrow to you?
I mean, Sanford consists mostly of industrial properties, so
Would you think that the access and egress to this property would be a tad difficult because of the narrow street?
it's possible. This is owner occupied, so they built it to suit their needs.
Okay. And, Mr. Brown, are you aware that there was a decision made last time around to reduce the value of the property from $1,220,000 to $808,000?
I'm aware that this property has been historically reduced at the Board of Revision, which was probably why it was reduced in our review program.
But I believe you mentioned you have no idea why it was reduced. You were at the last hearing.
I was not for last year.
You weren't, okay. Now, when, let's look at one of the pictures that shows a view from the rear from Empress. There's that picture here?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
page 12.
page 12. Again, I just wanted to confirm, you did not take this picture. This is just a stock picture that department uses, or has taken?
Google Street View.
Oh, it's Google Street View, okay. So you're not aware that the bank has subsided in the back here and it's causing problems for the building?
I do drive down Empress quite a bit. There is a ditch back there and a ravine, but I'm not aware of any. You can see the ravine on page 10 and 11. I know the property next door has had problems with their parking lot because they have to actually cross over that, but I'm not aware of any problems with the subject.
And so I see that you're using a cap rate of 6.4%. That's an overall cap rate, I guess that, based on the fact that there is a newer building on the site?
We're actually using an overall effective year of 1972 on this property, so it is based on 1972, that cap rate.
1972, so
But
that's-
generally, the smaller the building, single tenant, will generally produce a lower cap rate due to a lower risk.
So that's, in short, it's almost 50 years old. 40, 47, 48,
Correct.
and cap rate of 6.4%. All right, those are my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitford?
No, my question just got answered. Thank you.
I have no question.
Just have one question, Mr. Brown, in regards to page 10 of your brief,
Yep.
the overhead photo. Do you know, because I think you've got a total of 12,000, almost 13,000 square feet for this property. Do you know the division of that 12 between the three buildings?
Breakdown, I do not. No. I do have the plan on page 12, but there's no dimensions on it.
Okay. And you stated that you had not inspected the subject property.
That's correct.
Where was page 13 taken?
I believe it was a newspaper article about how they were expanding their operations to China or something like that.
Okay. Do you know when the last time this was inspected?
Unfortunately, I don't have the notes on this property, so I can't tell you. But a property like this that's owner occupied, unless there was any significant changes, probably hasn't been inspected for a while.
Okay.
But I can't say offhand.
Can you tell me what takes place at this property?
It is a machine shop. I believe they make parts. They have some new technology where they can do high-end precision machining. But that's all I know. I believe it's like tractor parts or something like that.
Okay, you can ask the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Satinsky.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to refer panel members and the assessor to the brief that was submitted. Let's turn to page 3. So in this particular instance, we're using a rate of $5.15 per square foot, which is based on the average rent studies shown on page 11. 11 shows a rent of $5.16 a square foot. We feel that because of the problems with this building, we're confident that $5.15 per square foot should be applied. We also are including the 5% non-recoverable costs, and we're using a cap rate of 8.5% in this particular instance. And the reasons why we feel that an 8.5% cap rate is more applicable is because of the age, which is the building, which is in total is close to 50 years old. There's rent to building ratio in this instance is 2.26%. The narrow street, we've been told that as a result of that narrow street, it's more difficult to access the site, particularly with larger trucks. But the problem that I'd like to draw your attention to with respect to this building is actually on the rear of the building. So when you look at the building from Empress Street, and if you take a look at page 11 of the brief and page 10, sorry, page 9 and page 10. This is a picture that was taken by me from Empress Street, and it's unfortunately it's not that easy to discern, but the bank is subsiding. Where you see the door on the left-hand side, there's a huge step up to the building, and it's causing problems to the wall of this building. You could take, there's a better picture possibly on page 10. If you take a look at that door, you might be able to discern that it's more easily seen that the fact that the land has subsided. And so, as I mentioned the last time around, the assessed value was the board ordered a reduction in the assessed value from $1,220,000 to $808,000. And speaking with Mr. Story, the evidence submitted at that time was with respect to the quality of this property. And there's been a problem. There have been problems with the walls buckling, and I have some additional photos. I don't know if you would like to see these photos.
You would like to submit them into evidence?
This particular photo actually does show the parking pad heating. So there are problems not just with the parking pad heating, but I'm advised that because of this, because of that bank subsiding, there are issues with respect to that back wall of that property. So I would kindly ask the board to review these issues and lower the value, and we're asking for $679,000 value for this property, because it's just, the problems are becoming more intense. And that is my presentation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brown, questions?
Just maybe take a second here to do a quick calculation. Okay, I'd be inclined to increase the cap rate to 7.5, so I'll make a recommendation at $995,000.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, Mr. Brown.
$995,000 rounded. I'll make a recommendation due to the evidence about the deteriorating rear of the building.
Okay, and sorry, cap rate of 7?
7.5.
Thank you. Mr. Zatowski, are you willing to entertain that matter from the city?
No.
No, okay, thank you.
Just one more question. So what was the board decision in 2018?
$808,000.
808?
Yes.
And do you know what the cap rate that was based on was?
8%.
8%. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitman.
Yes, the applicant had alluded to a reason for the reduction in the 2018 assessment, but I don't think I heard it. Do you know why they reduced it?
Well, I know why, I know what evidence was presented after speaking to Mr. Story, and part of the evidence was the state of the building, the problem with the land subsiding in the back, the buckling of the parking pad. And there are also, and I didn't mention this, but thank you for asking this question, but there's a lot of moisture issues inside the building as well. So those were the main issues that were as I understand it, submitted to the board at the hearing date.
Who owns the property that is buckling?
Well, the people who own this particular property.
And you know how close to that, it looks like a river or a stream?
Well, there's a
or
creek.
Waterway, yeah.
Waterway there.
How far from the building does the property run, do you know?
Well, when I was there, I was actually taking a look.
You can see it in my evidence. On page
Yeah.
10.
I have a couple of pictures here that may give you an idea.
Well, I see it, page
And
10.
11 at the top.
It looks like the property runs across that small creek.
Correct.
So that is the,
I'm sorry, across the creek? No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it runs parallel to the creek.
That parking pad with the bridge.
No,
is
that's
for the
an
adjacent property.
adjacent
Yeah.
property.
no, I'm talking about the purple line on your
Oh,
property.
the property runs past it, but the building doesn't, correct?
No, sorry.
Yeah.
No, the property itself encompasses the creek. So it doesn't go to the creek, it encompasses the creek. So would you not think that's the owner's responsibility to shore that up on a regular basis if they know their building is going to, as you seem to be suggesting, literally crumble
Well,
into dust?
And I would agree with you that it is the owner's responsibility. I'm not suggesting by the photo that you know, that it's crumbling, but it is having an effect on the property, and I don't know the property that well to suggest that what kind of maintenance procedures are being undertaken. All I know is that this is having an effect on the building.
I get that. So may I redirect to the assessor?
Yes.
In your knowledge, is there any permit taken out to correct these problems?
There is not a permit taken out to correct them. I'm assuming they would have to hire an engineer and address it.
You bet. So these are the same fellows that have owned this building, or folks that have owned this building for 50 years, if I've heard your evidence correct and the assessor's evidence correctly. And so, by the looks of the photos, they're getting up into their 60s and 70s, and is the building for sale? Is the property for sale?
No.
Okay, so they are not fixing the property?
Well,
That's with your knowledge.
I don't think we can say that they're not fixing it. I don't know whether they're
Yeah.
fixing it or not.
To the best of your knowledge,
Yes.
they're not fixing the property.
Somebody going to buy the property would be looking at that, which is why I addressed it with the higher cap rate, and we addressed the lower rents in the review process.
No, I'm satisfied, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Mr. Satowski, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked the assessor in regards to, and I'm sorry, I'm going to use the assessor's brief again on page 10. He had indicated the age of the three sort of buildings. Well, I guess they're together, but do you have a square footage split on those three ages?
No, unfortunately, we don't.
Okay. Did you have a chance to visit this property?
I've been there, not inside the building, but I've been.
Just on the outside?
On the outside, yes.
Just the exterior,
Mhm.
okay. And I'm just going to readdress to you, Mr. Brown. This, I'm gonna call it a cistern, is it a cistern or creek? or-
Creek, I would say, ditch.
Is that part of Oldlands? Yeah. Would that be a city issue?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that word.
Sorry, I was just asking Mr. Brown if this would be a city issue.
Oh.
Good question, but not my department,
Because-
unfortunately. I don't know.
Okay. I'm just assuming that there would be other buildings affected by this as it runs
I
all
know-
along Empress.
To the building to this, on page 11, the building to the south with the parkade that crosses, I've had that in appeal, I believe, with Mr. Story, and I believe that's even an artist property. And Mr. Story had mentioned at that hearing that they were having a lot of trouble keeping that parkade up because it's in piles. I'm assuming that land is very saturated and probably not very stable, so.
Mhm.
But that would be for the engineers and the,
Yeah, I think I was in on that hearing. Mr. Satowski, can you just tell me, nope, I think all my questions were answered. Sorry, thank you. Sorry, neither of you wanted a summation on that property, I'm assuming? Thank you. And we will move on to 530 Berry Street. Whenever you're ready.
thank you, Madam Chair. Roll number for the subject property is 0702120500, located at 530 Berry Street. This is the corner of St. Matthews and Berry. 2020 roll of $1,106,000. This is one building with 4 units, all 1 story, built in 1967. Wall heights at 16 feet and leasable area at 10,720. On page 2 of my evidence, we have 2 sales once again. There is September 2002, so that is 16 years prior to the reference date for $500,000. And then once again, in 2007, there is a multi-roll sale for $23 million. That was from ADA Holdings to Artis, which was, we touched upon on that newspaper article on the first property. Below that, we have the subject property leases. These are what were reported to the city in 2017. So we can see the 4 units. Rent ranges from $7.50 to $8.75. 3 of the 4 leases were signed 2014, 2015. One of them is a bit older, a 12-year lease, 2006. I have some rent comparables on page 3, all similar size to the units in the subject. All similar wall heights except for 130 Midland, which has 28-foot ceilings, and then effective year built ranging from 63 to 1998. And we can see the rents all tightly bundled there between $725 and $795. On page 4, we have my workup. I didn't calculate the average, but they're all pretty close, probably somewhere around $725-ish, using an effective or a potential rent of $76,942. 4% vacancy, 2% expenses, $3.75 per square foot shortfall, and capitalized at 6.4%. This yields the estimated value at $1,106,000. On page 10, so So this is located, once again, on the corner of Barry and St. Matthews. It's a square lot, we can see at the bottom of page 10. Kind of a strip mall style flex warehouse. You can see the configuration on page 13. And the statements on page 15. Once again, at the bottom of page 15, 0 vacancy. They're showing a net income of $88,000. We're using 70 and change, almost 71,000. So based on that, we ask that the assessment be confirmed at $1,106,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Satowski?
Thank you. Mr. Grund, I think you are aware that the last time around, the assessment was reduced from 955,000 to 852,000?
I believe I looked at it, but I wasn't, I don't have it in front of me.
So, okay, but you are aware that there was a reduction last time?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it, but I don't remember.
Okay.
Take your word for it.
And this particular building is about 50 years old,
Correct.
and you're using a cap rate of 6.4%.
That's correct.
Where's the line that, in terms of the age of a building, that would increase the cap rate? Is it 60 years old, 70 years old? Or
I don't believe I have that information with me today.
But you would agree that, and I think you mentioned this earlier today, that as a building ages, the cap rate normally goes up.
It depends, I mean, if the building's well maintained. I find location is a bigger, location and size are bigger triggers
What about the land to building ratio?
occasionally. I mean, this is more of a flex warehouse.
It's under 2.
It's basically just for parking.
And what about wall heights at 16 feet? I mean,
Once again, different tenants have different requirements. This has 0% vacancy, so they're not having trouble renting it.
I don't have any more questions. I mean, essentially, the questions that I have are very similar to, to past questions, because these buildings are all pretty similar type of buildings.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Whitburn?
No questions, thanks.
I have no questions.
So, Mr. Brown, page 1 of your brief, you've got an actual and effective age of 1967, correct? But looking at your brief on page 11,
Yeah.
if I may say, the exterior looks like there's been some work done to it,
It does.
but you've got no effective age. Do you have any permits that were taken?
I always look for permits. Lots of times if they're just cosmetic, we don't get them. A lot of times they have to be structural or mechanical in nature. And we get the change of use ones, which is when a tenant moves in and does improvements to the unit. But it does look like it's very well maintained, and it does look a lot newer than 1967.
Did you have a chance to inspect the subject property?
I did not.
Okay. Can you tell me the last time it was inspected?
Once again, I did not bring the notes with me, which I usually do. I apologize for that. If you do look on page 12, though, it does show the exterior a bit different. Those are very small pictures, but, so it has been freshened up since those pictures were taken.
Okay. So the exterior then has been freshened up, we're not sure
It
about the
appears.
interior.
I mean, this is an artist property. Once again, they always take very good care of their properties.
So just curious, page 3 of your brief on your rent comparables.
Yeah.
And I understand you're looking at rent, but for instance, your property on Keith Road, which is also 1967?
Yeah,
You wouldn't happen to know what the cap rate on that would be?
I don't, I apologize.
Okay, or 1717 Dublin at 1963?
No, I didn't look at the assessments for any of these. I'll generally, when I select them, I'll look at the, I'll look them up on Google, and then if they look comparable to the property. and then-
Oh, so you looked them up on Google?
Yeah,
So you
I
saw the
just,
exteriors?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so would you say then that those were in semi-good condition?
Generally,
As
I mean,
good
I
as-
try and pick ones that look similar to the
Okay.
subject, so it
Yeah.
was 2 weeks ago that I did produce this, so I can't remember any specifics, but
I understand.
I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The floor is yours, Mr.
Madam
Sitowski.
Chairperson, I just have one more question, if you don't mind.
Yes, go ahead.
Just looking at, again, at picture, your picture located on page 4.
Page 4.
Sorry, that's my bad. Sorry. That would be on page 10 of your brief.
Yeah.
The back part of that building, do you know how wide that space is there?
I don't. It looks like the loading door on page 11 comes off the side of St. Matthews.
Is there just one loading door?
I can't say for certain.
But you haven't been there, of course, so you.
No, I haven't been there. But the other, I mean, this is a type of property where clearly they're not using it for a lot of storage. They probably don't have semis
But
back
they need,
there.
well, but they need access. I mean, I'm looking on page 11 of your brief. So there are 2 pictures there. So the bottom picture, of course, shows the door on the side of the building.
Correct.
That would be, I would assume, to that unit that's right on the corner there. But what
Correct.
about the other 4 units? Would they have doors in the back?
I can't say for certain, but I mean, even if they did, it would have to be obviously a van, not a full-size semi going back there. It would have to be a van or a 5-ton truck going back there, not a full-size.
But even the bigger vehicle would have difficulty. I mean, they couldn't back up to the door.
I can't say for certain.
Madam Chair, if I could add, page 13 might give you
Oh,
a better
Thank you.
appreciation. It looks like a loading door and a man door, a person door in
Yeah.
each of the spots.
correct. So they
Thank
must
you so
be
much.
able to get some product in the back, despite the size of the,
Madam Chairperson, I have
Yes.
a picture of the back of that building. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened, but I only have one picture here that maybe shed some more light on what's in the back.
Yes, you can submit that, and we'll just get you to make copies after. Sorry, not to lose one.
That almost looks like a loading door. Right back there.
It's a lane, eh? You're not gonna get a semi in there.
no. I could tell from the aerial shots you wouldn't.
Yeah.
So it'd have to be brought in by van or 3-ton.
If you'd like to proceed.
Thank you, Kathy. So, again, I'd like to refer everyone to the brief that was submitted. And just before I proceed with the brief, I just wanted to remind everybody that there was a reduction last time around from $955,000 to $852,000. And the board decided in 18 to increase the cap rate to 7%. Would you like a copy of the decision?
No, thank you.
So, we'll turn to page 3 of the brief, and in this instance, we used a rate of $5, a lease rate of $5.15 per square foot, which is based on the market rent study shown on page 12. We added the 5% for non-recoverable expenses, and we increased the cap rate to 8.5%, and several reasons, of course. The age of the building, almost 50 years old, land to building ratio under 2, very narrow loading area in the back, as you saw in the picture. And, the condition, we feel that the condition of the building, I mean, even though, the exterior shots of the building might suggest that the building, is well maintained. Of course, it's well maintained, but the fact is that it's a 50-year-old building. And for those reasons, we're asking to reduce the assessment to $561,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Brown?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So you stated the Board of Revision lowered this to $852,000, that's correct?
That's what the order indicates, yes.
And your workup indicates that it's gone down in value since then by almost $300,000.
Well, we're using, the figures that you see in there, and based on those figures, the value works out to $561,000.
Okay, and so just that decision was based on a 7% cap, but you've chosen an 8.5 cap?
That's right.
Okay, thank you. On page, well, I guess sticking with page 3, you've selected your rent at $5.15.
Yes, that's based on our market rent study that's shown on page 12.
Okay, I'll get to that in a second. Page 9, you have the actual rent roll for April 1st, 2018. Would you agree that the actual rents are a bit higher at $875, $850, $775, and $750?
Well, Mr. Brown, we're using modeled rents,
Okay.
market rents, so
I understand that, but you would agree that the actual rents are higher?
that's what it suggests.
Okay, thank you. And your model rents are on page, I guess they're comparable rents, on page 12?
Page 12, comparable rents, yeah.
I'm having trouble understanding the lease start dates on these comparable properties. Perhaps you could shed some light on that. For instance, for the first property, you're showing a lease start date as 42,430.
Okay, so these leases were in effect in 2018.
That
All of
first,
these, yes.
all these leases?
All of these leases, yes.
And you're positive about that?
Very positive, yes.
Okay, I actually have a copy from a different brief of these comparables. And you have some 2014s, some 2015s, and some 2016s, and actually no 2018s or 17s. If you'd like to look at it.
Well, 2015, so you said 2015, so with that, that's a 3-year lease. That was in effect. If we're looking at 550 Century, 3-year lease, that would have been effective in 2018.
No, you have the lease start date as 3/1/2016, and it's a 3-year lease. For the first one. The next one's 2014. Just to point out, so which of these rents are you relying upon for your 515, do you know?
Well, the average, we're using an average of, if you look right at the bottom of the page there, it says 516, so we thought that 515 would be more suitable for this particular property because of the age of the building and the other issues that the low land to building ratio and that very, very narrow back loading area.
Okay, those are all my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McGrattan?
So just so I'm clear, you've used a model rent for your calculations
Yes.
then, as opposed to actual.
Yes. I mean, just like the city.
I understand.
Armados.
No, no,
Yeah,
you don't
okay,
need to.
thank you.
Thank you, I understand, okay?
Questions?
No questions.
Mr. Satowski, did you have a chance to inspect this property?
Yes, well, I hadn't been inside, but I was at all of these properties to take pictures, so I walked all the way around these properties,
So
but
you
not
did
inside.
so you did an exterior inspection?
Yes.
then? Okay. I think that's all my questions on this. Any wish for a summation, gentlemen?
No, thank you.
And we will move on to 2130 Notre Dame.
There was a supplementary on this one, is that correct?
Not yet.
There will-
I'll talk.
Oh, okay.
That was what I was talking to Sid about before.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask for confirmation on this property pending a supplementary assessment, and I can quickly take you just through what it entails. Would you like me to go over the roll number?
Yes, please,
Okay.
and the address.
It's
Cetera.
0756913685, located at 2130 Notre Dame Avenue. This is on the south side of Notre Dame between Caithness and Sherwin. We can go right to page. I believe it is 11. So on the bottom of this page, this is the current configuration. We'll see 3 buildings, one with a marker on it, one to the right and one to the south. If we go to the next page, so this at the top says 2014. You see at the bottom a different configuration in 2014. So they've removed this round building in the bottom right-hand corner and the building between the north and south properties here. Just a quick exterior shot above that showing what it looked like in 2014. So brown brick with a gray trim. Similar to the next page, that's 2015. You can see the excavator, the work has begun. 2016 below that, obviously it is changed dramatically, the exterior. And then 2018, what it currently looks like. Significantly different, at least they've done the first 2, it looks like they still have to do the one on the left on that 2018 photo. Fairly significant redevelopment. I have some further information on page 16. So there's a permit issued on 2016, partial demolition. For that property, there's the schematics, so they show the X on the 210B Notre Dame at the top. They demolished that, and then subsequently underneath that, they have the little building circled in a cloud. That was the next building to be demolished. Page 18 shows the current configuration, and then there's just some more permits for the exterior renovation. Picture of what it looks like on page 23. So based on that, this is gonna be, like the square footage isn't right. The effective year is gonna change. It'll be, it'll have to be a supplementary assessment. Which will actually, it looks like it'll be effective in 2017 or 18, so it'll go back to 1 cycle.
Mr. Satowski?
Well, I'm not sure what, Mr. Brown, what are you asking for? Your,
Just to be confirmed, I asked Sid if you wanted to adjourn it or confirm it, and I mean, I'll leave it up to you guys,
Okay.
whatever you guys feel more comfortable doing.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't realize
Okay,
because
we have,
that Mr. Story had left and I would have brought this up. while he
Oh,
was
okay,
here.
he said, I asked him what he preferred, he said to do whatever I wanted, but I'll leave it in your hands. And obviously, that's not my decision to make, it's your decision to make, so,
All right. Okay,
either way, if it's confirmed, they'll have a chance to appeal the supplementary assessment.
right.
And then they would still have the safety net of the meeting board. If it's adjourned, then it would have to be addressed. They would probably get a different file number once the supplementary comes out.
Thank you.
well, I think that it probably would be easier for all of us to deal with the new appeal, with the new assessment. And so it would be easier probably for us to deal with the supplementary assessment.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then,
So then I'm gonna ask you, you're in agreement with the confirmation from the assessor?
yeah,
And you are all right at this point, not providing evidence?
that's correct. And so the supplementary assessment will be in effect starting 2017, I think you mentioned.
Or 18, it'll at least go back one cycle, so
One cycle.
2020 will be
Okay.
appealable at that point.
I just have one question, this construction is ongoing still?
I believe so. It looks like the building to the west hasn't been finished yet, or sorry, to the east. And you can see that at the top of page 14.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a 2018 photograph, so.
Oh, I see, and at the top of 15, it's sort of explaining a little bit what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they even say extensive redevelopment to modernize the building.
Correct.
The permits start in 16, and there's one in 17, and there's, so I would assume that it would be an 18 or 19 step, so it'll span 2 cycles.
And I thank you both on that. Just give me one of these. So we will move on to 1221 Sherwin Road.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry, whenever you're ready.
No problem, thank you, Madam Chair. So roll number is 0756904840, located at 1221 Sherwin Road, which is on the east side of Sherwin between Notre Dame and Stevenson. Defending a 2020 assessed value at $4,305,000. The property consists of 2 buildings, 1 premise, 1 story. Effective years between 1969 and 1972. Wall heights ranging from 11 to 22 feet. Has a leasable area at 57,399 square feet. There's a picture on page 2 of the exterior. I have some rent comparables on page 3. Ranging from $6.13 all the way up to $8. All similar size to the subject, all similar location. Wall heights are generally pretty close to the subject. Some are a bit higher, 26, 27. even the 225s are a bit higher. Effective year built, subject was 1969-72, so these are all pretty close with the exception of the 1989. On page 4, I have my income workup. This is a storage warehouse. We're using a rent of $5.74 a square foot, which yields a potential rent of $329,470. We've removed 4% vacancy. We further removed the 2% expenses and the shortfall at $3.75. And we've capitalized this at 7%, which yields our value of $4,305,000. I have photographs on page 10. So this is located across Notre Dame from Red River College, right near the airport, obviously. Rectangle shape with a bit of an irregular back end towards forward. You can see the configuration at the top of page 11, loading door at the back, offices at the bottom, in the middle of the building. Picture of the, that's the north side of the property, top of page 12, and then the yards on page 12 and 13. There's an interior shot on page 13, pretty standard warehouse on the inside. A couple more interior shots on page 14. And then a picture of the office on page 15. This was for sale in 2017. You can see the advertisement on page 16 and 17. Property highlights, well situated, St. James Industrial Park, good land to building ratio, concrete construction, fully sprinklered, proximity to the airport. The price does include some warehouse equipment, which is why it's significantly higher than the assessment. You can see they reduced the price on page 17 from 6 1/4 down to 5 3/4. We're defending an assessment of 4.3 today. This property did sell post-reference. There's going to be a vacancy argument on this property today, and I'll go into that. I guess I'll just do that right now. There is, okay, right on page 27, which is the last page of the brief. So these are the 3 years, and I apologize for how small they are, but you can see at the top, 2017, we did not receive a response in 2016, so the next one down is 2015. And you'll see that year-end date at the top left of each screenshot. So year-end 12/31/2017, year-end 12/31/2015, and year-end 12/31/2014. So I'll start at the bottom. The tenant was Howden Alpha Air Ventilation Systems. You can see the lease start date was 1991, so they had been occupying this space since 1991. They were owner occupied. You can see once again in 2015, the lease start date is 1991. It's a little hard to follow as everyone can see what I'm pointing to. They did check.
What page are you referring to?
Page 27. So if we just go from left to right, it'll say the tenant name, Howden Alpha Air Ventilating Systems, Inc. Then primary use warehouse, moving to the right, storage, or property type class storage warehouse. Moving to the right of that, lease start date is, I believe that's the 9th month of 1991. Leased area 57,309. And then if we move all the way to the right, where the check marks are, that first check mark is owner occupied. So they've checked off owner occupied. Moving up one, exactly the same, Howden Alpha Air, storage warehouse, 1991, 57, 399, and they once again checked off owner occupied. 2016 was missing, and then we move up to the top one, 2017. All of a sudden, there's no tenant name. They indicate a lease start date of the seventh month of 2017. I believe that actually was supposed to be in the lease end date, because that's when the tenant moved out. And that is confirmed by the note below here. Received 311 inquiry for Howden Alpha Air Ventilating Systems. They relocated to 1221 Sherwin Road, which I believe, from 1221 Sherwin Road. The doors were locked and the building was vacant. Spoke to the property manager, he informed them that they had vacated July 30th, 2017, which does correspond with what they've indicated in that top section. So basically, they moved out in 2017, they ceased operation. They listed it for sale, so it was vacant. It did sell in September 2018, so it was vacant from July 30th, 2017, all the way to September 2018. However, it was for sale, so that would be obviously one of the major reasons why it was vacant. They did get a new tenant in March of 2019, so 5 months after the sale, or 6 months after the sale. Therefore, I don't believe this warrants chronic vacancy rates. I believe the model vacancy of 4% is more than fair in this case. It was occupied from 1991 all the way to 2017. Listed for sale vacant during that time, and then once it was sold, it was vacant for 6 or 7 months. We generally don't start adjusting vacancy unless it's chronically vacant. The highest we go is 25%, and that's for buildings that have been vacant for years upon years and are basically unleasable. So based on that, we ask that the assessment be confirmed at $4,305,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Stokowski?
Thank you. Mr. Brown, you suggested that there are 2 buildings on this property. Can you tell us or show us
It's technically one building, but it was obviously built, that's why you'll see 1969 and 1972, so they built the original in 1969. They subsequently added, and I'm guessing it's gonna be that, either the offices or the loading dock, which you can see on page 11.
So the technically, I mean, there are.
Technically, it's one building.
It's one
It was
building.
built into 2 pieces, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I was looking at the photos.
That's just, for us to have 2 different ages on the building, we have to have just 2 different sections.
Okay, so the effective age is it 19, what's the effective age, 19?
I mean, they're only 3 years apart. I would assume it's 1969. Just when the majority of the building was built.
Have you had a chance to inspect this property or drive by it at least recently?
I have not.
So are you suggesting that it is occupied now?
I am telling you that, yes, it is occupied right now. Or we have a permit dated March 13th, 2019. Permit states occupied for new warehouse tenant. The tenant is Future Transport. I only have 1 copy, but if you guys would like to look at it, I'm more than happy to pass it around.
Thank you.
Mr. Whitman?
And
It is post-reference, but
you're using models, right?
Correct.
Market rents. Okay. And in this case, you're using the cap rate of 7%. Even though this building is about 50 years old.
correct.
I don't have any more questions. Oh, just one more. So if you take a look at your pictures on page 10 and 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, page 10, take a look at the picture. It seems to show that posted near the rear end, that property. There doesn't seem to be any activity, anything stored on that property. Can you tell me when this picture was taken?
I can't, I'm guessing it was when the building was vacant and for sale.
What about the picture on page 11, the top picture? It does show a bunch of stuff stored on that property. It
Correct.
shows- And when was that taken, do you know?
That one's from Google, first one's from our internal, imaging. Google on Street View will tell you what date they took the picture, but they won't for the aerial, so I don't know.
You don't know. And then that lower picture from the street, it does show some cars parked in the parking lot. Do you have
Correct.
any idea when that was taken?
I do not offhand.
And I guess you don't know when the rest of those pictures were taken that showed activity on this property, on this site, like exterior pictures, interior pictures?
No, the leasing ad does say that there was equipment included in the sale price, but I don't know if that is referring to those pictures or not.
Yeah, so you don't really know too much about this building?
I know what I presented.
Other than that, I'm sorry, okay. Didn't
They
mean to
are-
sound like that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay, those are my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
I just have a question on this document, the permit detail, showing declared construction value is 0.
That, it's just because it's for a tenant moving in, and they probably didn't do any work to move in. It's just an occupancy permit. So that's a boiler template for all our permits. If there was a renovation, then it would have,
So the relevancy is, it shows a tenant is moving in.
exactly, the vacancy was short-lived and not chronic.
Is that all your questions, Mr. Whitbread?
Yes.
I have one on page 23. Do you know what date this ad was?
Well, it shows the rent, which tells me that it wasn't post-reference, because I generally will redact it if it's post-reference. But there's not a lot of information. Usually it'll say like,
I'm trying to
oh,
read
here.
the fine print, but
Operating costs includes utilities, budget 2018, so it was before 2018, they were budgeting out.
the operating cost.
Yep. I usually try and indicate when it was taken.
That's all my questions.
I just have a couple. Page 17 of your brief. The ad here describes a ceiling height of 19, almost 20 to 20, almost 28. But your ceiling height on your brief is 11 to 22. Just
Correct.
wondering.
So the 11 would be the office.
Right.
Yeah, and
I'm just wondering, because I know.
yeah, that
Height is
27,
important.
so if you look on page, where is it? Mr. Sitkowski actually has a better picture of it, but on page 11, on the top picture on the right-hand side of the building, you'll see the loading bay.
Mhm.
It has obviously a significantly higher ceiling. I'm guessing that's the 27. I'm guessing the rest of the warehouse is 22.
Because it's all one roof. on that.
Yeah, exactly, and then the roof goes up for that loading bay. Because if the office is 11, and we look at the bottom picture of,
Right.
yeah, it looks to be about double that.
Okay. So you mentioned this post-reference lease in March of 19. Is it fully leased?
Can I look at that permit again? Does it have a square footage on it? It would be on the left-hand column near the bottom. There's a leasable area or tenant lease.
I don't think it has.
I
It
don't
doesn't
think
have
it
it.
does not. no.
I would presume, I don't know, but
Okay.
thanks.
So you did not inspect this property? Okay, so you can't speak to the overall condition of it?
No, other than the
Is it-
pictures I have of the interior, and that's it.
Okay.
It was inspected when it was vacated, and that's that note.
Right.
Yeah, doors were locked and building was vacant, but I spoke to him and he said that he couldn't get inside, so.
Okay. So I'm just gonna ask you, because it's in your brief, this page 2 on your sale.
Yeah, that's post-reference. I normally take those out. These briefs are all auto-generated.
Right.
I should have taken that out. I apologize for that, but
I agree, but it's there, so I'm just gonna ask, do you have a cap rate on that, Sam?
not with me, no,
Do
unfortunately.
you have any knowledge of
I
what the cap
mean,
rate would have been?
It was owner-occupied, so
Okay.
always tougher to generate a cap rate. I mean, it becomes a lot more subjective at that point because you have to pick a rate from comparables, which is obviously not actuals, but it's pretty close to what I'm defending today, even though it's post-reference, so, I mean, it appears that the model worked.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Satowski, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Just further to that page 2, if you don't mind. So you show the sale.
Sorry, so you're just asking to readdress?
Yes,
the
please,
assessor?
please,
Okay.
if you don't mind. Okay, so I see that the sale occurred on September 4th, post-reference. Where was that picture taken, do you know?
Which picture?
Below that, on that page 2, the picture that's there.
It's showing the old tenant in there, so it was before they moved out in
So that would have been an older.
2017.
Okay.
Or is that the new tenant? Because the sign is different
It is.
on page 11 versus page 2.
Oh, yes, this
That's
says a
possible.
different name.
Ultra span. So it's possible that that's with the new tenant already moved in.
Is it?
Except on this, it's got a different,
Future transport, yeah.
right.
So we don't have an answer. Okay. So can I then proceed now?
Yes.
Thank you so much. So, what do we, we're going to the presentation, to my brief. I want to start off with page 1. Page 1 is a picture of this property, and this picture was taken in late September of this year. Because I took it.
Okay.
And you can see there's still for lease sign. You can see that there are no vehicles in the parking area. And then if you go and take a look at some additional pictures that we added, page 8 of 6, and go to page 9. This is the back of the property, and you'll notice there's nothing there. It's vacant. There's absolutely nothing being stored in that. And then if you go to page 10, same thing. Doesn't look like it's being used. And this was in late September of this year. So this property, as of late September this year, was not occupied. So,
That would be post-reference, once again, but I'll ask my question after, sorry.
so now if we go to page 3 of the presentation, so I'm not gonna argue the rate per square foot. However, there was another error made, and the error is, there's a calculation error, so using the square footage of 57,309 times 574, you'll notice that on our side of the brief, it shows that the total rent would be 295,605. That is incorrect. Thank God I checked some of these calculations. I have, again, I'm gonna provide you with the correct calculation, if you don't mind.
Yep.
So that, the rent should actually be 329,470 as per that, so it could be higher.
Thanks.
Now, there is a question, of course, of the vacancy issue. And we use a 25% vacancy rate, because we feel that there's chronic vacancy. When this property was purchased in 2018, the purchaser wasn't planning to move to occupy the premises, but he was planning to rent this premises. And unfortunately, this building is not occupied. It's as of September of this year. It hasn't. So it's not occupied since July or prior to July of 18, until at least end of September. Now I understand that it has been rented out, and the tenant hasn't moved in yet. So it's been vacant for a long time, in our opinion, so that's why we're using a 25% vacancy rate for this particular building. Also, we've reinstituted the 5% non-recoverable cost, and we've increased the cap rate to 8.5%, mainly because of the age of this particular building, which is about 50 years old. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Brown?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, just a couple. So I think we've established that it was vacant the end of July 2017, correct?
It was vacant, yeah, yes.
And the reference date is April 1st, 2018, correct?
Okay,
So that's 8 months.
okay.
So do you feel that 8 months of vacancy warrants a 25% vacancy?
Well, it's been vacant for a long time, so.
But without going into post-reference, it was roughly 8 months,
Yeah, but you have to look at the conditions that exist currently too, right?
physical conditions.
Okay.
I won't dwell on that too much. You indicated on your first page that it was still for lease. I think if we look at my page,
Well, the sign is still on.
I agree. If you look at my page 23, that Colliers was renting the office space.
Well, if it was, I don't see, this was during the day, this was in the late morning that I was there,
Okay,
and I don't see any.
that was my
vehicles
next
parked.
question. And these were taken to September, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Those are all my questions, thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I can tell you exact date.
It's fine, no, it's fine.
Mr. Whitbread?
I'm fine, thank you.
Madam Chairman, I'm still confused on the sign. So I'll just move on.
No, I was gonna ask, you go ahead, ask questions on the sign.
Well, this one taken in September has Howden still there, and Mr. Brown's taken in,
We don't know when that was taken, it's possible that it was, because in Google Street View, you can actually go backwards.
but
In
this,
time?
this tenant's been in here ever since.
I don't know which tenant that is, Ultraspan, and I can't read the one on the left.
Yeah, can do.
No, unfortunately, can't speak to that.
Okay, we'll just leave it at
The
that.
permit was for a different, so it's possible that that was over. But, which is weird, because we know Howden was in there since 1991, so.
Yeah, that's why,
Yeah, it's a bit strange. I wish I could tell you more.
and it is the building in question.
It is the subject, yeah. You can see the office on the right, I mean, if you, yeah. It's the same sign post.
I know, it's just a change of the
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's it for me.
But I mean, basically, when we boil it down to it, we know the tenant moved out in July 17, and the reference date's April 1st, 2018, so that's what we should focus on.
So, Mr. Satowski, you took these pictures that are in your brief, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and you're stating that you took these in September of this year?
I'll give you the exact date if you.
29, no, I don't need the exact date,
It's
just
actually on the
this year.
top of your pictures.
Sorry?
The date's on the top
No.
of your images.
No, that was when the
No.
brief was, oh, no.
No, I don't.
September 23rd, 2019.
Oh, is it there? Oh, then, okay. Oh, yeah, look at
First
that,
picture.
it's there.
So you did an exterior
Just exterior,
inspection, correct?
that's correct.
And can you just speak to the condition of the property?
Well, obviously I can't speak to the condition, interior condition.
No, just the exterior.
The exterior seems to be, fairly well maintained.
Okay. Thank you, that's all my questions. Again, summation? No? Sorry, I'm just gonna ask, panel, does anybody need to take a 5-minute break? Are you good to continue?
Nope.
This is another one, I'm just gonna hold on before it says here. We are going to move on to 130 Midland. Can you just give me a second, thank you.
I always do.
Yeah. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Roll number is 13001690100, located at 130 Midland Street, which is on the corner, it's like a three-way corner of Midland, Dublin, and Notre Dame, right where that weird junction is. I am defending a 2020 value of $7,705,000 today. This property consists of one building, 8 units, 1 story, built in 1998. All height is 28 feet, and leasable area is 66,753. On page 2 of my evidence, we do have 2 sales of the subject. First one occurring in March 5th, 2007. Just over $2.75 million. Then we have a more recent sale, which is actually right before the reference date, of $7,675,000. So that's about $30,000 less than the assessment today. We actually agree on rent, so we can skip page 3. Page 4, once again, these are all model driven. The building is set to average. You can see the 8 units, average rent of $7.52. Gives us our potential rent at $502,018. Reduce that by 4% for vacancy, further 2% for expenses, and shortfall at $375. This yields a net operating income of $462,285. We capitalize that at 6%, which generates the value at $7,705,000. Obviously, all those rents are net of management. Addenda, page 10, We can see the location of the subject property. Some exterior shots on page 11. Have a rental advertisement on page 12. So this was, date available was the 9th month of 2017, which is right above the highlighted rent in the middle of the page, seeking $8.50 per square foot. Under the description, they state that the building has 1 unit remaining, clear ceiling heights of 21 feet 6 inches, 2 dock level doors, excellent exposure, variety of commercial or industrial and commercial uses. The layout of the building on page 13, so the 2 bigger units on the ends, smaller units in the middle. One of the typical smaller units on page 14. And then we have on page 15, the income and expense statements returned by the owner. See the net operating income at $620,299, that's line 218 in the middle column. For the assessment, we're using an NOI of $462,285, so a little bit lower than the net operating income being reported. We can see on the right-hand column, average percent of vacant space, that was left blank. Once again, at the bottom, rental income loss, vacancy, it's been crossed off. So there was no vacancy in this building. At the reference date, or in the last income and expense mailer we received prior to the reference date. And then we have the rental roll on page 16 as provided by the controller of the company. And they indicate that those are all net leases. They've X'd off the box that indicate the net lease. So based on that information and the sale at $7,675,000, we ask that the assessment be confirmed at $7,705,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Satowski, any questions?
Again, just to confirm, you used your models to arrive at the value?
Correct.
You didn't look at the actual property and the income that it generated?
I actually reviewed this property in the review process, and obviously I looked at the sale, I looked at the assessment, and it was pretty much bang on, so the model worked.
I don't have any more questions.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
Just I want to chase that down a little bit. So you passed over the rent because you said we agree with 752, so we don't need to discuss that. And I want to just confirm, was that driven by the model?
That was the model. I did not make any changes to the model. The model pretty much hit the sale price bang on.
And
I will point out net of management.
we get that.
Of course,
all.
of course.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
that's fine. That's the only question I have.
I have no question.
You did not inspect this property, correct?
Correct.
So your pictures are Google?
Correct.
So you, on page 2 of your brief, you've got the 2 subject sales,
Correct.
and the February 2018 is in the reference date.
Correct.
Do you have a cap rate on that?
I don't. I mean, using their NOI, which I haven't vetted, but using their NOI, which would be higher than ours. Let's see if I can remember how to calculate this. It's been a while. I mean, obviously, using our NOI, it would be a 6% cap. Using their NOI, it would probably be closer to 6.5 or 6.25. I don't remember how to calculate it offhand, but I know it's generally sale price divided by NOI, so.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sikowski, if you'd like to proceed?
Thank you. So, again, I'd like to provide you with new workups that correct the errors. If you notice on the original one, we used vacancy shortfall of $2.25, it should be $3.75. And the vacancy allowance, we agree with the assessor that it should be at 4%. So rather than 10%, I don't know if you get that. So we agree with their model rent of $752, the model vacancy allowance 4%, model vacancy shortfall of $375. Of course, the disagreements are with respect to the non-recoverable expenses, 5%, and we're using a cap rate of 7%, which is based on our cap rate study that we show on page 12. The average is 8.29 on page 12, however, since this is a big newer building, we felt that 7% would be more appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, any questions?
Just a couple. So you've used an NOI of $433,151.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
So if we actually applied a cap rate of 5.6 to that, we would get to the sale price. Actually slightly higher, 5.7. So a 5.7 cap on a NOI of $433,151 would yield a sale price at $7,600,000, which is similar to the sale price. Would you agree with that? Using your NOI with a 5.7 cap would yield a price of 7.6, just under.
Yeah, that's what would be almost 5.6.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
No questions, thanks.
No questions.
Mr. Sikowski, I'm going to assume that you want to round this up to your request to $6,200,000?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a chance to inspect this property?
Again, just the exterior.
Thank you, Council. Any questions? Again, summation, gentlemen? And moving on to our last item on the docket, 1499 King Edward Street. Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Roll number is 0701098600, located at 1499 King Edward Street. This is the east side of King Edward between Powell and Notre Dame. I'm defending a 2020 assessment of $2,201,000 today. Subject is one building, 2 units, although they're both being occupied by the same tenant. 1 story, built in 1962, 18-foot wall height, and a leasable area of 27,200. There is a 2007 sale, but it is a multi-roll sale for $23,341,000. I have some rental comparisons on the following page. Spaces ranging from 21,500 down to 5,632. All located in the same area as the subject. Wall heights vary from 15 to 22. Effective year builds range from 58 to 1980. And the net rents per square foot range from $650 up to $985. Subject property, we're using an average, on page 4, of $6.18, generating a potential rent of $168,120. Reduce that by vacancy of 4%, expenses at 2%, and shortfall at $375. Capitalized at 7% generates the assessed value at $2,201,000, rounded. On page 10, once again located near Red River on the east side of King Edward. Built in 2 parts. We can see which is why I guess it's 2 units, the difference in the roofs on the bottom of page 10. It's being occupied by Prime Fasteners and Tools. I have been in this building, although it was a long time ago. Page 12 and 13 shows some interior shots. Retail store at the front and racking at the back for storage. Income and expense statements on page, what would be page 15, although it's not there. Once again, rent roll on page 16, 0% vacancy. Actual rents are a bit lower than the model at $575. We're using 618, but I believe that's an older lease, 2013, so it is, and 2007, so 11 and 5 years prior to the reference date. Feel that 618 is reasonable given the time frame between those leases and the reference date. And based on that, we ask that the assessment be confirmed at $2,201,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Stokowski?
Thank you. Mr. Brown, you're aware that a reduction was ordered for this property last time?
No. Could you give me the specifics of that, please?
So in January of 2018, the assessment was ordered to be reduced by the Board of Revision from $2,042,000 to $1,823,000.
$1,823,000?
Yes.
And what was the cap on that?
The cap rate that was used was 7%.
Thank you.
No questions.
No questions.
In this particular instance, this particular building is almost 60 years old,
Correct.
and you use a cap rate of 7%. You don't think that this warrants a higher cap rate? Being 60 years old, I mean, it's almost functioning at the end of its life.
Nope, the model, we've analyzed all the sales, inputted the parameters into the model, and that's what it indicates it should be at.
And the land to building ratio is under 2? And
Correct.
it's still 7% age and land to building.
Correct.
All right, I think those are my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Whitford?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
No questions.
Okay. So my question is, page 2 of your brief, under your subject sale history.
Yeah.
I understand that's a older sale, but it was bundled? with
Yes,
other
that was,
properties? Was that the,
one of the ones that they talk about in that newspaper article on the first property. They bought, I think it was in the same year, 2007. One was from ADA Holdings and one was from ING Holdings. One was broken down into individual sale prices, but this one was lumped together.
I'm just assuming that the sale then properties would have been throughout the industrial, like, correct?
Correct. I think we saw that multi-row sale on a couple other properties.
Right, so, this is more of just a curiosity question. Why would somebody be interested in a 1962 building?
I mean, at the end of the day, it produces income. Maybe because it was part of the portfolio. I mean, this isn't a typical artist property, obviously. But I know for a fact that tenant has been in there for a long time. My dad owned a cabinet shop growing up, so we actually used to go here quite often to pick up supplies. And that's dating back to 1996. So long-term tenant, generating income, pretty low risk.
So that was the last time you were at this property, was
No,
1996?
when did I stop working there? 2007? 2008?
So you haven't inspected it since?
Correct.
And do you know when the last time it was inspected?
I don't. It doesn't look a lot different from when I was there. It's a standard retail store with some industrial at the back. And Mr. Sitkowski's brief actually shows the front of the other building that faces. So that's the front of the King Edward facing building. And Mr. Sitkowski shows the front of the Powell Street facing building. Which I also show on page 12, and that's, it looks like that's where they unload all their stuff, although they have trucks in both.
Okay. Thank you, that's all my questions. Mr. Stokowski, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nancy. So as mentioned at the outset, there was a reduction given to this property, but at the last hearing, and that reduction was from $2,042,000 to $1,823,000. So we'll turn to page 3 of my brief. Everything else is very similar. We're asking for the rent to be at $515, which is based on the model rent or market rents that we have noted on page 13. We, of course, are asking the board to reinstate the 5%, and because this building is sold, 60 years old, we're asking for a cap rate of 8.5%, not just because of the age, but the land to building ratio is under 2. So based on those factors, we're asking for this property to be reduced to $1,423,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, questions?
No questions.
Mr. Whitford?
No questions.
$1,423,000?
Yes.
No further questions, Madam Chair.
Mr. Satowski, sorry, I keep missing that first number when you're talking about the board decision in 2018.
Sure,
It's
it's
2,042,000.
42,000. Yes. And the number it was reduced to is $1,823,000.
Right, based on a 7% cap.
Let me just double check. Yes, 7%.
And did you have a chance to inspect this building?
Again,
Exterior.
exterior,
Yeah.
yes.
So how would you qualify the exterior of the building?
Well,
Average, good?
based on my exterior inspection, it looked like it was less than average.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, any wish for summation on this property?
No.
You're good?
We're okay. That was a long one, we'll have to work.